Welcome to the next episode of Heart Happy Hour. One Love and Wellness. How are you? I am hoping you're enjoying the start of this new year. Woo, 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 woo. 2022. That's Love Me Some You in the background. That's me singing a song about a gentleman that I was totally head over heels with. And it was something else to go through. So this episode, we're going to talk about gifts, words. We're going to do a poetry. It's a poem, a little short piece of poem, and my music. So you're listening to Love Me Some You, Deon the Entertainer, and myself wrote it. Deon the Entertainer is on some music, but the guitar player is Junior. What is his last name? Folks. I think it's Folks. It's something like that. I'm sorry, Junior, I can't remember it. I'll come back and say it again later. But again, One Love and Wellness. We are going to start off with my poem, and then we're going to go into the words and talking about gifts. So my phone has decided to okay, here it is. Okay, so let me make sure that I am totally muted in the background. So this poem was written on October the 29th? No, October the 25th, 2018. And here it is. It's no title. When I am courting or in the process of dating, some of my talents come out in various ways. I'll write poetry, I'll write a song. I may even write a skit. It all depends on what I'm inspired to. I might make some jewelry. By the way, I have 2 new rings on. I'll go over that later, but this is a primordial spiral. It has energy that I will discuss later, but this is an energy boost. Thank you. Copper helps with Arthur, and it keeps it away from me. So the poem goes like this. Utterly astonishing. Hurdles are higher and valleys are lower. Prized is the eye of the beholder. The soldier from above loves love. Be kind, not to rewind the sands scripted on the walls behind the time of crime. Mime is the proof. All these things have symbolism to them, and I'll tell you about it later. Time, sure enough, can goof the truth that used to soothe like a groove, a tune in tune, but sounding aloof. That was my tone at the time. One Love and Wellness. This was a courtship process back then in 2018. So I was in the process of distancing myself from, I want to say, my first and only husband at this point, but I have had relationships where I was with them for 7 years or 13 years, and that we were living together. So I do have other, what do they call those that's a legal term that you become, I forget what the term is, but legally married after you've cohabitated for 7 years. So anyway, back to the message at hand. One Love and Wellness, Happy Heart Hour. We're going to talk about gifts and staying in the present and using your gifts and you're in the presence. So in the meantime, if you would allow, I would like to give you some things that I have been learning from in my healing journey. My art is therapeutic. Heart Happy Hour started because I was finding more and more things, more and more ways to be therapeutic and healing about my artistic creative activities. Okay, so the gifts that I have, I'm only going to tell you about a few of mine. I don't need you to know all of my business. My B is ness. I be whatever it is to the ness. So I'm gonna talk about words, and here you go. That was a little light intro to that part of that segment of the show. So I'm going to start with the gifts, and in my notes, I have a few things to try to jar my memory. Um, but the gifts, you can accept your gift or deny your gift. And if you accept your gift, then you will learn, to expand it, to deepen it, to broaden it, become more expert in it, become a subject matter expert, and become, one with expertise in those areas. And if you do not bury your gifts, they will multiply. So once you are, and I'm talking about gifts in the sense of your sensitivities, meaning things that you're able to pick up on. Some people have an accentuated hearing scenario where they're able to hear not only in this dimension but on multiple dimensions. Some people have an ear to hear, let's just say music. When I hear a certain drum track or a certain musical background, music speaks to me in such a way that I will then be able to come up with some words. And the words will make some sense, and the sense will be somewhat poetical. And not everybody can do that. That is something that I feel is a gift. Music, is a pattern. And so the music will have a certain pattern, and certain words will fit in that pattern. And the words that fit into that pattern have somewhat of a message or some sort of meaning or something that you should begin to, pay attention to if that is something that if you hear music and you hear words. I also hear music and I can actually see choreography. I could see it being somewhat of a dance. I can do a routine off of, most types of music. But as I was mentioning that your senses, your sensitivities, they used to call it extrasensory perception, ESP. Used to be a word that they used for, and in my early learnings, ESP was a word that was for a group of things, extrasensory perception. So all of your senses have an elevated perception, and they call so let's just say you have some sacred senses, some senses that allow you to tap into the sacred side of your sensitivities or your energies. So you have eyes to see, but then you also have eyes to see beyond the physical, to see the energy, to sense the energy. These optical devices that we have, the two that become one. If you cover one, you see one. You cover the other, you still see one. But then the two become one. So in the matriculation of the energy of the data that is received, the visibility is in a certain spectrum of certain colors and of certain energy, certain frequencies. Remember that word. I'm going to use that word again later when I discuss words. Frequency is. But also, sensitivities of our senses can be used in other, in terms of like telekinesis, telepathic, telepathy, or I think those are the two things that I want to mostly use in that sense. But tele is, you can televise, you can telecast, you can you have telepathy. So some of the words that we use have segmented meanings, and then or just those letters or those two letters. As I was learning the language of Latin and the etymology of words, I got into what the meaning of some of these prefixes, suffixes, and so on meant, so that I started breaking down words and what they would actually mean. But words is not the segment that I'm trying to be on now. It all kind of relates, and I'll get to that. But in your sensitivities, you actually have to detach. To get to your sacred sensitivities, you have to detach from the mental aspect of it, the brain connection to it. I mentioned something the other day, day before yesterday, I had a conversation with another subject matter expert in the health and wellness industry. And the conversation with him was that in reference to looking at an aura, you've got to be able to, your eyes aren't focused. Your eyes, you have to unfocus your eyes. And basically, you're not looking at a single point. You're looking at a broader view of things. And in the sense that you might see a certain energy in certain levels or certain rings, or to a depth of about 6 feet out from yourself, you can sense the energies. And colors have energies, and every object has a certain frequency or a certain vibration. So anyway, so your senses. Okay, so we're talking about how you have to detract from your mind. And there are a lot of people whom I know who are schizophrenic or bipolar or have dementia going on, and they are more apt to utilize their energy, their brain power, in ways that aren't as tuned into the frequency that we are on right now. Okay, so in the case that someone is putting the logical connotations, the logical part of your brain to rest. When you put that to rest and you allow yourself to soften your gaze or soften your hearing, so that you're not focusing on any particular thing. Like sometimes I'm able to hear what sounds like radio, but if I fine tune it, if I tune into that particular frequency, I've actually, and I'd like to share a story with you. I was in California, and I was going to visit a beach. And as I approached the beach, I was coming from not on the sand yet. I was walking to where the sand was. And as I got to the sand, it seemed as though I had crossed a particular threshold, or there was a activation of a specific energy or an energy zone that I walked into. And as I approached that zone, I started hearing, there were, I want to say, 7 or 8 different voices that came at me. And they were coming from different angles and from different people or different beings, because at the time I didn't look at it as though they were physical or not physical. I just had received the signal of the transmission of whatever verbiage or information that, or data that they were sending me. So again, I'm getting 6 or 7 people greeting me as I'm walking. As I step onto the sand, bam, it's just like, hey, how are you? Hey, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? What are you here for? Hi, are you friendly? Are you foe? And so, funny thing was, um, I'm used to that kind of energy coming to me. So I actually, I tuned into where each of them were. I noted a few, and then I realized, okay, they don't mean me any harm, and I don't mean them any harm. So we didn't really bother too much with each other after that. Although they did continue to engage with me, I was still on an open line per se. I was still on the channel. I was still tuned in, but I was silent at that point. I was in silent mode. I wasn't conversing with them. They weren't conversing with me. We were just on an open channel at that point. So there were things that were happening. One thing that happened is I met someone, and that person. I started this. I'm going to continue. This is the story that I ended the last show with. And I'm going to expand that because what I spoke to was that I was able to, I went to an area, on this beach, these people greeted me. I found my way to an area just off the sand. And just as I came out of the sand, I walked to a particular area and it felt as though I was lifted off the ground. And as I was walking, because I continued to walk, but I could feel that my feet weren't touching the ground. I could feel that I was not planted or rooted. I had actually been elevated or levitated and I was moving forward. And so when I got to the place that I had decided, the reason why I was moving forward, when I got to that place, I asked the person, because I figured they might have seen it. I don't know if they'd see it, if they do it. I don't know what they do. I hadn't met that person yet. That person, I was going to them. There was an attraction there. There was a reason why I was approaching them. But as I approached them, I asked, I says, hey, I just had that experience right there. Have you had that experience before? Have you seen, is this something, what about this phenomenon? That was new to me, but I wasn't scared and I wasn't afraid of it and I didn't mind talking about it. So that person didn't want to talk about it. And maybe they hadn't experienced it, or maybe they had and they wanted me to talk to this other person. So he introduced me to Glenn, and Glenn was talking about, he had been abducted and he had been, taken out many times, and that, it was a regular activity for him. Now, again, this is in California. It just so happens that this beach is right next to a mountain. The mountain that I went up on, in this 2-day time of me being at these two locations, this beach and this mountain, it was some very, very, there was some invisible stuff going on. Let me just say it that way, because I can't say it was necessarily spiritual in the sense that it was God. I have had encounters with what I thought was angels. I'm somewhat blurring the line a little bit now when it comes to spiritual, my interpretation of what spiritual is, because the movie that I watched called The Gods Are Among Us, I think it was called Among Us, and it had a word on there that was talking about gods, but I think there were some others that was called The Gods Among Us, and it was more so talking about aliens. And I think that they talk about them as gods because they have super powers or super sensitive energies. They're able to do things that the average person hasn't learned yet how to do. I sure look forward to when I can do a Lucy and turn into the all and be, include the dark matter. But in any case, so let's get back to the beach. I'll tell you about the mountain. I want to just talk about these gifts. So, I did tell you about me walking on what I felt was water. So it was either I can't explain it because I am not able to delineate, some of the dimensional kinds of scientific thing. But just say, in my estimation, in my explanation, I walked on the water molecules. It felt like I was walking on air. But it also felt like the air was pregnant, like it was so full, it actually had become solid enough for me to, be able to move forward on. And I mean, I just kept walking and I was above ground, and it had to be at least about maybe about 4 or 5 steps. So I know it was 2 or 3 steps per foot that were elevated. And so, I can't say that that's a gift. I can only say that that is something that I encountered. It was a special time because I said I was greeted by these psychic people. Perhaps they were paying attention to me because they wanted to know, would that be something that I would be sensitive to? I believe that it was a vortex. I believe that it had something to do with an energy grid. I believe that it was one of those acupuncture pressure points that when I grazed it, I possibly released some energy that allowed me to be able to move across the atoms, the molecules, the air. So, but in the meantime, those gifts, you can use them when you are not as focused on other things like TV and movies and music. Music can be magical. Music can set the frequency and the tone of things. But what I'm saying is that it is not. There's certain types of music. Middle C used to be what used to be our tuning. Now things are being tuned more so to um, down to A, which brings down our frequency, which lowers our energy, which means we have to work even harder to elevate ourselves to higher places, to an elevated or ascended energy place. So I want to also relate to other gifts that other people might have. As I mentioned, I can also hear things. There are times when I'm also able to see things, you know, and this is a funny thing. You know how dogs can hear that dog whistle thing. So, I wonder, are they from this planet? Are these animals? Because when you go to these other, ooh, I say when you go to these other planets, like I've been there. Ooh, when you watch movies that are about other planets, and a lot of these movies have some reality to it, have some inklings of some insight that you can learn from that are preparing you for the next things, for the next level, the next thoughts that they want you to be able to be okay with, to be able to make of more of a norm of it. But so for the most part, um, you know, your sensitivities are like powers, and you can accept them or not accept them. And if you don't accept them, then you may have, and for me, at some point, I did not accept them. I just blocked them away. I couldn't even go into a hospital without feeling illnesses and sicknesses and energies from other places. So I had to learn how to bottle it up, cap it up, keep it covered, keep it at a level that it was no longer an issue for me. And before, I couldn't go to hospitals until I learned that. I mean, I learned that I needed to do that because I was at a hospital. One time I was on Green Street in Baltimore City, University of Maryland Hospital, in their atrium. And I was actually a vendor. I was vending. I had, I've been, I make jewelry. Like I said, I was going to tell you about, that. So there's an Ankh, and then there's a primordial spiral. So I was out there selling scarves. I was selling jewelry. I had a few things, about 5 or 6 different categories of things sunglasses. I had a bunch of jazzy stuff and made good money. And I felt to the point where I didn't feel like it was an expensive thing to do. But anyway, I had to stop doing it because I found myself being in, like there was a woman that was about, at the time, she might have been about 25 to 30 feet away from me. 25 to 30, no, maybe about 50 feet. She was about 50 feet away from me. And all of a sudden, I started feeling down. I started feeling gloomy, doomy, um, even to the point where I wanted to cry. And I knew it wasn't me. I mean, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Why am I feeling like this? And then I look over, and there's a lady over there that she is, I can see in a distance. She's not real close, but I can see in a distance. She's the only person that was around me. There was nobody else there, so that's how I know it was her. But anyway, so I'm sensing and feeling what she was sensing and feeling. And I kept wondering why, when I was at that hospital, I would always go home with stuff feeling not good, not having a good energy. Like, because I was inundating myself with all that, because there's electronic equipment in there. There's all these, people that are emitting all these emotions and emoting all over the place. Good stuff, bad stuff, not so good stuff, sick stuff. I just couldn't take it anymore. So eventually I got out of that. So I wanted to be able to talk more about the gifts, and the time is going by real quick. So I see that I'm at 24 minutes. I didn't want to have to be that long, and you know me, I get into stories. So What I did want to do is quickly go over words, and then if I get some other opportunities later, I do some more in depth on the gifts, or I'll make another episode just about the gifts. But the gift, to me, to utilize your gift, you have to be in the presence. Your you know how you have to change the spelling of things. So the presence, you're in the moment. You're using your gift as a presently. Okay, so to do that, you have to step back from your mental capabilities. Don't try to intellectualize, rationalize, or make sense of things. Which is why I have to use cards to write things on, because things will come to me in blurbs. Now I've had books where I would write in the spirit, or write from another realm into this realm. And in order to do that, like, I felt like I've been divinely inspired to write not only music, but to write words, to write poetry, to write what my show is going to be about. As I meditate and I sun gaze and whatever else that I do in my daily manifestation processing, things come to me, so I write them down, and then later on, so it's kind of like the dreams. I dream. I have this whole world of things that I dream about, and in those dreams, there's symbolism. There's things that I need to come back, and I may be, excuse me for fixing myself, but I may be given a warning of some sort. I may be given some sort of message. Sometimes there are forecast things. Sometimes there are things that I've had to, I've now matriculated enough where now I get whatever the message is, and I'm now able to work it out in my mind. So anyway, going back to words, and I started with present, presence, presently. Okay, so there are some words that are literal, and we don't even think about it. Sometimes even our names have some energy that it actually brings energy to us. It just by someone calling us that name, continuing to call us that name, actually adds energy to the validity of that energy that we would actually continue to portray. So let's just say that I want to, give a shout out to some of my family members who have gone on to glory. And I want to speak to their two names, because I think that both of their names are significant in the way of the words that I want to discuss. So one of their names is Sherry, my Aunt Sherry. And so sharing, Sherry was a sharer. She shared. She was definitely one who would she would definitely give you stuff for, oh, I don't know about everybody. I just know about me. I just know between us, she was a sharer. She would share anything that she had, that she would definitely be, she lived up to her name. She lived up to her name. And the more she was able to, the more she allowed herself to present her gifts and be present in her gifting, she was more and resembled the word that was given to her as her name. Someone else that I knew, and this is funny because it meant something to her to have this nickname, but it meant nothing to me to call her that nickname. But to me, the nickname I used as a term of endearment, because I knew it was her nickname, and I called her by that. But I did not know that she did not like it. And rest in peace, my Aunt Patsy. So I never even thought about that the word Patsy meant, oh, that person is being a patsy. I never thought about that. I never even associated it with, and it never separated me from the love that I had for my aunt. I just called her very endearingly by her name. I just had that conversation with my mom today, so I brought that up. Today's my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, mother dear. Another thing that you know, as far as words, there's a word I wanted to speak on, as I mentioned earlier, frequency. Now, how many times something happens is the frequency of it. How many times does it happen? But that term has also been used for the tuning of a frequency, meaning a high frequency, a low frequency. There are different types of waves, and the frequency is the measurement of the waves in that particular uh, time lapse, that particular measurement of this to that, from here to there. How many times did it? And so that is usually estimated as the frequency. So everybody has a vibration, so that everybody has a frequency. And so, even the rocks cry out, even though the rocks have a certain amount of energy, they can be charged in the full moon, they can be charged in the sun. And that energy can be used like a battery to us. And you see, I have all my stones on, and these are the things that I do to prepare myself for utilizing my gifts. But it is also helpful, the copper is also helpful for my arthritis, which I kind of stumbled upon. I think it was my great, I don't know if it was great or great. It was a couple of greats in there. One of my great cousins told me that her great grandparents had talked about, had worn uh, uh, copper cuffs, and copper bands on their ankles, and that it helped them to relieve the uh, the gaps in the bones that were having problems with arthritis. And that's usually where arthritis comes from. There's some air, or um, the joint gets either get some air in there from you popping your joints, popping your knuckles, cracking your knuckles. That's one way to get arthritis, because you're continuing to introduce air into those gaps, and then they start to dry out, they start to separate, and then they start to rub, and the rubbing causes it to expand. And there's some other things, but I just know that's what happens with me. Um, it used to happen to me because the copper has made my arthur run away. Arthritis is not an issue or concern with me any longer. So, lastly, about the words, I just want to speak about one particular word that I use, and it's acronym GPS, Global Positioning System. We actually have a natural GPS in us, where you can actually find your way to places just by tuning into your inner self and asking it to guide you. I have used it on several occasions when I was in areas where, back in the day when you used to have the little GPS device, using it, and it would tell you, what's now on your phone. It used to be on a separate device. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but for me, I had one of those Garmin devices, and in certain areas, the signal wasn't good, and I would. In one particular time, I went up to the mountains, and I was doing. I was working on a project, going to a project, and the GPS stopped working. And so I said, okay, well, I'm on the mountain. Let me just tune into the signal myself. And I did, and it worked. It was so awesome. I just, what can I do? Uh, I am familiar with a lot of people that are able to do some astonishing things, very super sensitive themselves, and being open minded to those things since a child allows me to expand my. I don't have a box. A lot of times I don't have a box. I can say I haven't experienced everything to know that I do or don't always have a box, but a lot of times I don't have a box. And a lot of times I'm neither here nor there. I can take it or leave it. I'm not excitedly thrilled, or I'm not excitedly underwhelmed. I am at peace. I am in a place where I'm able to be peaceful about things. So, and that is also being able to tune into the internet. I feel that that GPS energy, the internet, World Wide Web, you can tune into that as well. I have done that. I have spoken about that on occasions before. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, let's see, did I get through everything? Did tell you about the beach. Yeah, well, okay, one last thing, and I'll make this the end, and then I'll turn my music on, and then we can be on about our day. Hope you got something out of what I had to say today. But I wanted to speak on the difference between science and magic. You know, Magic is unexplained. it just has not been explored yet by science. That's my take on it. That's what I've also seen in other cases where other people have tried to explain it. For me, it's as though if it happens by magic, it just means you just don't know what happened. That don't mean that it doesn't have something scientific that has happened on a quantum level, metaphysical level, or whatever other level, dimension, or activity. It just has not, you just haven't figured it out yet. But that's not to say that there isn't a way for it to happen. Hey, you drive a car every day, but you don't know how, well, maybe, ride the bus or however you get around. You don't have to know the workings of it to be able to drive it. You don't have to be able to put it together to be able to utilize it. You don't have to be able to figure out how to utilize it to use it in the case of your gifts. If you know that under certain circumstances, it's usually tied to something emotional. Let's put it that way. It's usually tied to something emotional. Energy in motion. You are being super sensitive to the energy in motion. Everything is in motion. Everything is constantly in motion. It's just up to you to be able to be sensitive enough to know that, things are moving, things are emitting frequency, emitting vibration, emitting on some level some energies. So, again, one love and wellness. I again am Precious Mother Love. You have been here for the Heart Happy Hour. I hope that you will come back to join us next time. We are going to continue to discuss ways to be happy, ways to be to utilize that happiness to become self-loving, to love yourself, to give yourself therapeutically creative ways of utilizing, I consider medicine an art, the medical arts, martial arts, healing arts, many ways that you can look at art. There's the art of war, there's the art of love. All of these things, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a game, but you should definitely know that there are rules in place. Whether you know them or not, whether you're tuned into them or not. And I'm totally free. This is the land of love. I can be me. I'm giving you the better part of me. It's all I got, and that's a lot. It's the energy. It's you and me. It's white light. It's bright. It's a lot of me to be at the end. At the end of the rainbow. One love and wellness. Hope you had a beautiful day. Hope you will continue to enjoy Heart Happy Hour with me. See you next time. One love and wellness.